Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. Sorry for being late. We just haven't spoken for a while and we were just having a chinwag and a good old chat. As you can see, the Scarlet Pimpernel, Matt Hayes, is back with us as well after Spurs' fantastic start to the season. He's got his new shirt on, fresh from his trips abroad as well. Did you go? You went away, didn't you, in the Champions League?
Right? Yeah, I went to the game against Marseille. Yeah. Oh,
how was it?
Spectacular. I've been to the stadium before, but it's still just such a I don't know if humbling is the word, but walking into that stadium it's absolutely outrageous. And I know probably a lot of people that are watching are get to go to their team 10, 15 times a season, but when it's twice a year, if you're lucky, it's such a magical moment. And we won as well. And Richarlison scored his first Tottenham goals, but made it just 100 times better.
Yeah, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to give you a chance here to chat to someone. Someone said he would. Someone on this panel said he would be the flop of the season, Matt. How do you feel about that? Having seen his good start.
By any chance, is this the person who was talking up to Origi towards the end of the season?
Is this the man who said Sadio Mane? That said it'd be flop of the season. I'm pretty sure Corey said the same as me.
Let me rephrase.
Oh, Corey went Lingard. Corey went Lingard.
Did he? Oh,
is this the man who said Sadio Mane than Harry Kane? Is it? Yeah. Look, I mean, 60 million is a lot of money for a player who's never going to be the starter in our team. But look, I don't want to purely demote him to this, but any other time Son is on the form that he's on, we can't drop him. Because you're not going to start Lucas Moura, you're not going to start previously Stephen Bergwijn, Vincent Janssen, those sort of players. You're not going to start them and give Son the kick and maybe even the rest that he needs. Richarlison allows us to do that. But aside from that, the first couple of games when he came off the bench, we were struggling. He just added something, a bit of impetus. He was flying into challenges. He was pressing. Thank you, Justin. Even that game against Nottingham Forest, I know opposition fans hated it, but when you're Spurs and you don't often get a chance to showboat, when you have a player doing it like that and the hate that it garnered, it's a little bit different for us. And I think every Tottenham fan already has fallen in love with him. And it's only going to get better because he is genuinely playing really good football for us.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him. And I think as well, Mike, he's one of them players that if he plays for your team, you love him. If he doesn't, everybody hates him, right? But I have actually been impressed with him. We'll start with Spurs Leicester. I seen a question you posed on social media. I forget it. Was it did he get dropped, or was it a case of giving him a kick up the backside kind of thing? We're talking about Son, of course. I think he dropped him. Would you say? Is that fair to say?
I said, was he dropped or was he rested? Which for me are two very, very different things. And Tottenham fans didn't take too kindly to that question. But I feel it's one that was worth asking because, again, the whole point of our transfer window, when it was in midfield, bringing in Yves Bissouma, in defence, bringing in Clement Longley, bringing in 3 left backs, 4 right backs at this time, the majority of the business that we did was to increase the depth in the team. It wasn't to improve the starting 11 drastically, because I don't think any of our signings really did that. It was to improve the depth. And if we're now going to be in a position when we're getting to use that depth, I know we have 7 games and 21 days coming up, whatever it is, but Son has been incredibly out of form. And even that game against Marseille, because I'll be honest, I watched 3 Tottenham games this season. I haven't had the chance to watch them with work and stuff like that, but I was quite taken aback because I'd seen all the comments about how bad Son had been. But the first time he got the ball against Marseille, gave the ball away, there was a bit of a rumbling. The second time, but when it got to the third time, there's people really vocally reacting negatively to Son if he made a bad pass or something. I think that just goes to show how bad he's been. When he, it was a joint Golden Boot winner last season, but he really dropped to a level that was nothing we've ever seen from him before. I personally think he was dropped, and he responded to it in the perfect way. I mean, to come off the bench and score a 13-minute hat-trick. Again, I know we'll talk about the Danny Ward and Leicester tax, whatever you want to say, but the first 2 goals that he scored shows that no matter how bad he is, he doesn't lose that confidence. To take that first shot on his right foot, fine, it's a brilliant goal. But even that second one on his weaker left foot as well, it goes to show that he has that confidence and trust in his own ability, that whether he was rested, whether he was dropped, whether he was rotated, whatever word you want to use for it, he was going to bite back and say, well, this is why I should be in the starting 11 when we go to the Emirates in 2 weeks' time. And it worked perfectly for everybody, because Richarlison got some good minutes, Kulusevski got back in the team, and Son got man of the match.
Yeah, it was although Spurs weren't great I mean, it's mad to say that when you've scored 6 goals, but it was class because I think everybody likes Son, right, Corey? You know, it was just great to see him. You don't?
I can't stand him, but he's a world-class player. He got world-class.
How can you not like Son, man?
I just don't like him, mate. I think we've had this discussion 2 years ago, and I just can't stand the bloke. Like, I don't want to ruin the show and go on about it. So I'm not in a position here to slate him either. Let's be honest. After my weekend, so let's just move.
Yeah, true. No, it's good to see him firing. Like you say, was it 14-minute or 13-minute hat trick?
13 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, he just came off the bench and just lit it up. Oscar, obviously, it was I watched the game and I thought Leicester in part were really, really good. Just defensively, absolutely shocking. They've now, and I said the goal against Man United, it was almost as bad as Leeds United's defending. And it now turns out they've let in 22 goals, which is the most by any team ever in the Premier League at this stage of a season. So it shows how bad it is at Leicester right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed Danny Ward quite a bit off air. He is the worst keeper in the league for me. I don't think that's a hot take. I think by a long way as well. He's not just the worst keeper. He's a lot worse keeper by a long, long, long way to whoever's 19th on your list. They're conceding stupid goals as well. Defensively, I don't think any of that back 4, back 5, whatever it is. They're changing it around a lot. No one's really playing well there. In front of it's not doing particularly well either. And Ndidi, I think, is well off it. Ndidi. Tielemans is doing good on the ball. Off the ball, again, doesn't really look up for it to me, Tielemans. But yeah, as you kind of said, Leicester with the ball, I thought looked good. To be fair, I thought they maybe not like what they were before. You know, when they're winning FA Cups and finishing 5th and that lot, but they still look like a team that's got enough quality to get themselves out of it. I still think they will get themselves out of it because you saw what danger Maddison can cause, and and Barnes there as well. They've got a lot of good players who would get into most teams in this league. So, yeah, I think there's no question Leicester is still going to do things going forward, but defensively, with no transfer window, not making the right recruitment, they've got massive problems. I think no matter who's in charge, with the personnel they've got, goalkeeper-wise, I think they're going to struggle to keep clean sheets, and they're always going to be needing to score 2 or 3 goals just to draw or maybe win a game. But
this set piece coach as well, fat lot of LP.
That worked well.
It was so funny, man.
It's one of them, though, isn't it? I can't believe Rodgers hasn't gone, to be honest. I can't believe it. I thought after that one, it was the manner of the defeat as well. The fact that they were in the game and then they lose it like that. I think second half was a bit of was it a lost the dressing room kind of performance? I'd probably say it was in the second half. So they were up for it first half, but as soon as things started to go against them, and Son comes on, they just completely panic. And just to say on Son as well, I mean, it's one of them. I think whenever Son or Kane have a drop off in form, and I was guilty of it last season with Kane, I will admit to that, Matt. Or straight away, I'll hold my hands up for that one.
You said he was finished, bro. I remember these.
I don't finish. Might have been a bit much. I don't think I said finished. I think
my man's going to Bayern Munich next season to win the Champions League.
We'll see. Yeah, he's just Son it was inevitable he was going to get back in the goals. I mean, despite him not playing well, he was still getting chances. Son can finish, and he did. And I think they've been that good, Kane and Son, the last couple of years, that whenever there's any slight drop off in form, there is a big drama created out about it. And let's be honest, he had 6 games without a goal. There's a lot. I mean, how many games did Rashford go without a goal? Yeah, like 20, 25. It's just the fact Son's that good. The spotlight's on him. A bit like Salah, really. Everyone's saying Salah's playing awful. He's not playing as well as he normally was, but when you actually look at his stats, there's not many forwards in the league as good as what Salah and Son are producing. So, it's an interesting one, but Son and Kane will both get 20 goals plus this season in the league. Easy.
And still won't get more than Haaland.
No. Haaland's getting 40, 45.
I know, yeah. Corey, Oscar mentioned Maddison. I seen his interview. I thought he came across really, really well. Do you think it's at a stage now for him that, say, January time, he needs to push for a move? Perhaps if it continues in this vein, like someone like Newcastle, for example, might want to I know, I think Matt mentioned that Tottenham looked at him as well previously. So do you think it's time for Maddison to maybe move on to pastures now?
Possibly. The only thing with Maddison that's protecting him a little bit is he's been able to actually perform in an underperforming team. And I'd say it wouldn't affect his England chances, but something else definitely has. So it's not like he needs the move to play for England. But having said all of that, I thought the way that he took his goal against Spurs was brilliant. I think he created another chance as well for Daka, where he just finds these really good attacking positions. And he's unique in a 10 in the fact that he is willing to take shots from distance. He will take on a man. He will commit someone. And I think you're right. If he continues to perform, even in this underperforming side, then someone will take a punt on him. Because I'm even looking at I know we've got Paqueta now, but as you said, we've got £50 million kicking around to throw it at Leicester for Maddison because he's that good a player. So, but yeah, I thought he spoke very, very well. And I thought he dealt with the questions quite well, given that obviously they were quite a little bit sensitive towards his manager. But I think I sit with a lot of people here in that I'm surprised Rodgers is still in the job. It's too big a result, to be honest, for him to kind of keep going. But
do you know on that as well, right? So I agree with you. And the mad thing is as well, Corey, like Leicester's next fixtures after the international break, right, are Forest, Bournemouth, Palace, Leeds, and Wolves. So for me, that's almost a perfect opportunity, and my club's in there as well. But in terms of fixtures, for a new manager to come in, international break, work with the squad, then got a decent run of fixtures to get some results. Whereas if they don't change it and leave it with Rodgers and it continues, then they could be up shit creek,
I'm with you, but there's part of me that thinks about that Leicester board and they look at it and think, hang on, he's got fixtures that he could turn this around in. And I think we've seen from this board that they haven't been willing to sack him when they probably should have done. They haven't backed him either. So for me, it feels like a long-term strategy to keep with it. Or it's just that complicated to actually get rid of him and it costs way too much money that they feel that they are stuck with him. So it could work one of both ways. But do you know what? Even as poor as Leicester have been, I kind of look at the obvious errors in Danny Ward in goal and set pieces. And I just wonder if they were able to smooth that out and deal with it, that they could just try and build a little bit of momentum. They won't be where they were over the past 2 seasons or so, but I can't believe how bad a keeper Danny Ward actually is. And he's still being asked to do things in terms of distribution that he clearly can't do. And clearly the set pieces, when you're giving a team like Spurs, Kulusevski's cross as well for Kane's goal is ridiculous. That might go under the radar, but you're giving players of that quality and that ilk, even though Spurs didn't play particularly brilliantly, the opportunity within the box, then you're down to a loser anyway. So it'll be interesting, but I kind of go along with the pattern that, listen, it feels untenable at the minute. It's got to a point where something has to change. And unfortunately, I think it's probably the manager. But I think Rodgers is a great coach. It's just it's gone stale.
Yeah. Do we all agree? Do we think Rodgers, it's probably time to go? Yeah,
I think so. I think he won't struggle to get another job, Rodgers, and for a good reason. You look where he's been a success at Leicester. I mean, if you offered Leicester fans when he took over 2 fifth place finishes in the FA Cup, it's gone horrendous this season, but I think all in all, you'd be pretty happy with what he's done at Leicester overall. Surely he's got to be up there with their best ever managers, I'd think, alongside like Ranieri and that lot.
Yeah. No, I would agree, mate. Yeah, and like you say, it won't be out of a job for long. Right, let's move it on to Brentford versus Arsenal. Arsenal, again, I mean, I thought they were fantastic. We said on Friday's show, I felt like a lot of... They had this result against Man United and everyone had sort of forgotten everything they'd done. They were like, he's tactically inept. He got outdone by Ten Hag. He's this, he's that. And for me personally, they've been the best footballing side to watch this season. And I say that over City. That's just my own personal opinion. I think they've been really, really good. And I think they're nailed on top 4. As good as like Spurs and that are, I don't think they've been great to watch. Arsenal, for me, have been that. And for them to make Brentford look as ordinary as they did, because Brentford, and I know mugs, it's a tough place to go, but they just couldn't get going. And again, I thought they were class, me. And Matt, what are your thoughts on Arsenal? They look good, right?
No, they're very, very good. I put up another tweet yesterday, and like every fan, especially when it comes to these rivalries, every opinion goes to the extreme. So Arsenal fans all think they're winning the league, and Tottenham fans all think, as soon as they play a good team, they lose. They're not that good, this, that, and the other. Arsenal are very, very good. And I'm glad Agala's not here, because I wouldn't say that in front of him. But like they were missing Zinchenko, Smith Rowe, El Neni, Odegaard, and Cedric. I know El Neni and Cedric probably don't get into that team, but to be missing Zinchenko, Odegaard, and Smith Rowe, and to still go out there, like you said, dominate that game from first minute to last. And I do think they obviously played a part in Brentford looking quite poor. I think Brentford just played poorly as well. You know, that counter attack that they'd used so effectively against Manchester United, it just wasn't there. Nothing was happening for them. But of course, you have to give Arsenal credit for that, and it's impossible to ignore the fact that they're not only getting results, but they're playing really, really good football when they're doing it. And you can make the debate with Tottenham that, you know, we're getting a little bit lucky, we're overperforming XG, you know, it's not sustainable. There's no like sign of that within that Arsenal team. It's that defeat against Manchester United. Like you say, people did dismiss what they'd done before. I think the reason that happened is because everybody had been saying after 3, 4, 5 games, wait till they play United, wait till they go to Old Trafford, because that's the game I think we all saw as the stumbling block for them. Fair enough, you lose at Old Trafford. That's never the end of the world. It's how you react from that. And of course, having the week off, maybe it helped, maybe it didn't, whatever part that played, but they came out and they were brilliant against Brentford from first minute to last. And I think with Arsenal, a very, very good way to kind of see where the mood is, what the mentality is like, and where they're actually going is players like Granit Xhaka, who have been so, you know, he's been the bad man in the dressing room. He's been stripped of the captaincy. It's happened with Aubameyang. It's happened with Mesut Ozil. When he's playing as well as he is, and he's been as fantastic as he is, and so influential, not only in his ability, but from a tactical standpoint, where previously you think maybe he's a bit too rash to really be effective in that point. Everything Arsenal are doing is just working really, really well. And look, I've criticized Mikel Arteta a lot. I don't think he's as good a manager as he thinks he is. He thinks he's Pep Guardiola in everything that he does. He's not quite there, but he's built a team that plays really well together. That understands what he wants from them, and they're going to playing really good football, and they're getting really good results. Are they title challengers? For me, not in a million years. Nothing on them. City are just too good. If you ask me, are Arsenal an 80-point team this season?
Okay, we'll frame it different, because I think we all know City are going to win the league, right?
Yeah.
But for me at the minute, Matt, Arsenal are the team that are going to run them the closest.
I see what you mean. I don't think anyone will run them close in anyway, because Haaland's going to score 125 goals in the league this season. They win everything. But Arsenal they're a team that I can see reaching 80 points this season. And in a normal circumstance, in a normal Premier League season, that is enough to win the title. So they have the quality, if there wasn't such an outlier in the situation, to go and win the league.
Yeah.
And look, it hurts to say that. I mean, I still think they do have a bit to prove, because the fixtures have been kind to them. But I can't sit here and say that I can't give them credit for what they've done so far this season.
But last season they lose them though, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They lose them.
Yeah.
They do lose them. Obviously it's the North London derby as well when we come back in it. The first game Saturday morning after. Oh, it's going to be a beauty. I cannot wait for it personally. Are you in agreement with me, Corey? Are you in agreement that maybe Arsenal are closest to City at this moment in time, or do you still think, like, there's a lot still think Liverpool are just givens, and I'm not too sure personally.
No, I think Liverpool are really struggling to kind of find that system where they feel comfortable again. I know they tried to adapt it over the summer. Arsenal are probably, other than Manchester City, the most complete team that I've seen in terms of performance. And I'm talking across the 90 minutes. I've seen it against Bournemouth, and I've seen it. And Brentford's actually probably a better barometer, because Brentford are a tough team, especially away from home. I think it's the first time they've lost 3-0. It's the heaviest defeat they've had since they've been in the Prem. Yeah. And for me, with Arsenal, and where I was on the fence last season, was, yes, they can get results. Perhaps in transition, they're very good if a team presses them. There were spells of it. But actually, when you look at Arsenal, their ability to control the game and completely take the tempo from the opposition. And you look at the counter-attack, typically it's into Ivan Toney and Mbeumo and beyond. I thought Saliba dealt with it really, really well. And it's just that balance they've got of being able to play that high line. Obviously, Saliba makes a huge difference. But again, there are players like Fabio Vieira that can come in, that can play in that midfield too, that's very, very comfortable in possession. And Jesus obviously adds a completely different dynamic to it. So I think in terms of a team at the minute, they are probably the most complete team other than Manchester City. But again, you know, they've dealt relatively well, and I'm talking relatively just because they've played, one Europa League game, maybe two. Then that could take its toll. But I'm genuinely impressed, you know, like you say, Joe, in terms of an attractiveness of a football team. They're definitely up there. The only thing I would say is you've got two sides of the same coin. You've got Arsenal play attractive football, win games, and Spurs don't play brilliant football, but again, are still winning games. So that game at the 1st of October is going to be really, really interesting, because both teams are a lot closer, I guess, in results than what other people feel. But yeah, I've been really, really impressed with Arsenal.
Tell you what, don't impress me, that chant, Saliba, da-da-da-da.
It's in my head. You've done it now. You said it. Don't, because do
you know what though? Like on Saliba, I hold my hands up because Arsenal fans wax lyrical about him for so long. I don't watch French football, and I always said, nah, whatever, Saliba might. I think a lot of it was due to the fact that I love Ben White so much as well. So it was like, no, there's a reason he's over there. There's a reason he's not playing him. And he's just come over. And Oscar, he's a bit of a Rolls Royce in his Saliba. And that backline, just the whole backline, really, at Arsenal's really strong now.
A lot of depth to it, isn't there, as well? In fact, Zinchenko was missing. He didn't miss a beat. Tomiyasu as well, I still argue, is probably the first choice right back in normal circumstances. But I will say, you've given me a bit of stick about Richarlison. I will say Saliba, I did pick out at the start of the season. We'll just add if we have a little bit of consistency. But now, listen, Saliba, I mean, the job he did on Tony, I can't think of any defender who's done a better job on Tony.
Llorente, last time out.
Well, yeah. Moving on. No, but as Corey was saying as well, Fabio Vieira comes in. For Odegaard, they don't miss a beat. And Vieira, obviously, the goal he scores, I mean, he looks ridiculous. What a talent he is to bring on with 20 minutes to go, or maybe even start games. They've got so many options to rotate. Across the board, they're looking really, really good. Are they the most likely to contend to City? Probably at this moment in time, you'd probably say yeah, but I'm still a little bit reluctant to totally write off Liverpool until they've got that midfield balance sorted. I do think you saw the difference Thiago made to Liverpool in that Champions League game. I think if you had Thiago playing instead of Milner, Henderson and that lot in the other games, certainly the Man United one, I do think Liverpool are a much better team. But listen, City are strong favourites, aren't they? But if Arsenal can do a job on Tottenham, I don't think there's that many question marks you can have with Arsenal then. I think despite losing that game against Man United, I think you play that game 9 times out of 10, they win it. I thought they dominated the first 60, 70 minutes. Man United do on 2 counter-attacks. And ultimately, they're going to face a similar thing with Tottenham in terms of Son, Kane, Kulusevski, Richarlison, whoever it is in that front three. It's going to be a similar kind of game, I think, to the Man United one. They've got to show, to be title contenders, they've learned from the Man United game and win that game against Tottenham. They have to win it, really, for me. I think if they're only drawing that game, losing it, then you can kind of question, can they do it against the top 6? Because last season they couldn't. They simply couldn't do it against the top 6. So, yeah, they are a really, really good side. And I think, as you were saying, they're the best footballing side in the league. I think they're probably the best footballing side in Europe, to be honest. I think the football they play, in terms of what I like to watch, in terms of just exceptional to watch, to be honest. We've got
I love watching Jesus. I love it. For me, is that a player reborn?
He's the player of the season so far. I mean, Jesus has got to be up there. Saliba's got to be up there, to be honest.
It's Erling Haaland, for sure.
Early, but there's a few players in there you're saying,
if Haaland doesn't win it, mate, I'd cut my arm off.
Well, yeah, but Haaland's
don't say that, mate. He gets injured.
He has 10 touches a game.
Oh, man. Imagine, remember that after he'd had 8 touches against Bournemouth or whatever. Everyone were comparing him to Lukaku and saying...
He'll score more goals than he has touches.
Yeah.
That's my hot take.
I think Ibby's made the point there as well. But do you think it is much of a statement from Arsenal if they do beat us in a couple of weeks? We don't win away to Arsenal. They beat us at the Emirates. I'll accept if they do it in such a way, if they like we did it to them in May, which by the way was a pretty game. Like if they do it and they make a statement doing it, obviously then it means something. But like if they go out and they just beat us 2-1, like they always do, I don't think that means much in the way of their season or even of our season. Whereas on the flip side, if we go and get a result there, that's big
for you two, I guess. But for like other people outside of that, like for me, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a big statement win. But like you said, they just always win. You know what I mean? Then I guess it's different. It's going to be a great game, though, and I think it's a great game to welcome back Premier League football with.
The biggest test is when they play City. I mean, can they feel like the one team that can kind of keep the ball against City and really play City at their own game? I don't think anyone else, even Liverpool, I don't think can go toe-to-toe with City. And I don't know when that game is. That'll be really decisive as well. Yeah. If they're in any kind of contention, be interested.
They played really well last season against City, didn't they? Do you remember? I know
not so much that one they lost 5-0.
No, but
the one at Emirates they did.
Yeah, was it for the first half? Because I remember they got mocked, right? For like, oh, you played well for a first half.
It went down to 10.
Spurs fans still mocked them for that.
Spurs fans still mock them for that, do they?
Of course, yeah. They go on about it. It's the greatest thing ever. They said, "Oh, Arsenal fans actually said we're the only team who brought the game to Manchester. We did the double over them last season."
I was going to say we beat them with 10 men. We beat them with 10 men, mate.
Yeah, but taking the games we're talking about, you know, we beat, you can beat City on the counter, but I'm talking about Arsenal actually went to
on the counter. We went to the Etihad. We beat them 3-2. We didn't do anything on the counter attack.
You didn't go toe to toe with them, though, did you?
No, we did score more goals.
Because you got a world class front three.
So we're better, is what you're telling me, Oscar.
Are we talking about right? Are we talking about going toe to toe with them? You cannot tell me Tottenham went toe to toe with City last season. They beat them because Conte completely outclassed them.
We deserved to beat them. We deserved to beat them. We had a disallowed goal. We had chances, glorious chances that we missed in the game. I wouldn't pass
if City were fully at it, you would have beaten them.
Yes, because we beat them all the time. We beat them like 8 times in the last couple of seasons. Toe-to-toe with Manchester City for a team like Arsenal and a team like Tottenham is different. Arsenal are a possession-based team. Tottenham aren't.
That's what I'm saying.
But you can't say we can't go toe-to-toe with them just because we don't play possession football. We played our game. They played their game. We had more chances. We looked the more dangerous team, and we scored more goals. I class that as going toe-to-toe with Manchester City more than they did, playing a good 45 minutes and then battling it, getting a red card and conceding in the 95th minute.
Anyway, that was then. Let's and also, like, if it's just no, it wasn't. It was Shadow Boxer in the World. Not them. Not that comment. Where has it gone? Anyway, after the North London derby, they've then got Liverpool as well, Arsenal. So that's a big test. It'll be interesting to see if they can get like 4 points from that. It's huge. Even 3, I guess, like from them 2 games is a good return. 6, I mean, then I think we can all say Arsenal are well up there. Let's talk about City then. Premier League champions 2022-23 already locked in. Haaland player of the season, top goal scorer of the job lot. The guy is a joke. Scored again. I was really, really happy for Grealish. We were talking about Grealish, how a lot of what I'd sampled in the lead up to it was he's the biggest flop. I've seen a lot on Twitter. He's this, he's that. And I thought he looked really good. And we've seen little shades of him actually carrying the ball and not seeming... I think the early goal in the game gave him that confidence. And I thought he looked really good. And it'll be a massive boost for him, won't it, that, Corey?
Yeah, massive. He's come under serious... I really like Jack Grealish as a football player. And I was kind of a bit concerned that, I guess as a neutral, but maybe from an England perspective, that he hasn't quite progressed in the same way that I thought he was with Pep Guardiola. But, you know, I know people will say it's a typical Manchester City goal, it's a tap-in, but it is good movement, to be honest. And I think that's where Grealish is such a weird one, because if you watch him for 90 minutes at his peak or at Aston Villa where he's performing really, really well, it isn't necessarily about goals and assists. It's about how he creates for other players and creates space. And I thought we'd see that a little bit more. But if he's able to get that into his game and be a little bit more effective, because I think he has to be a success at Manchester City, then that's only a good thing. But yeah, I agree with you. And again, that dynamic of Grealish playing well, Foden as well for his goal, Haaland, De Bruyne, this Haaland-De Bruyne dynamic that's going on. I don't know if it goes under the radar, but De Bruyne actually looks even a more effective player with Erling Haaland in the team. He has someone that you can find that his passing range is good enough for. De Bruyne is not being asked to be a false nine anymore. All of a sudden, he's got someone he can work with. I just think that Man City are able. I thought Wolves would be a bit of a sticking point. I appreciate they were down to 10 men, but again, the way that they took their goals, the quality of Erling Haaland, it's... Yeah, you're right, mate. I think they're bankers, aren't they? I cannot believe. Normally with City, it's quite slow and it takes a bit of time. And I know they've had a few results where you've gone, okay, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, but they're different level, aren't they? Even though I've said Arsenal were a good team, not on City's level.
They are they are different level. On that red card as well, I've seen Mike Parry said it was not a red card, and Jack Grealish made a meal of it, man. He literally Samaru side kicked him straight in the chest. I don't think it was intentional or like that, but anyone who thought that wasn't a red, I think batshit crazy. But just on Wolves, Oscar, obviously no Collins now for 3 games. Bruno Lage has obviously wanted to switch up his system. Let Bolly and Cody go because they're better in a back 3, I suspect. Well, I know Cody is, right? So they've let them 2 go. Collins is now out for 3 games, and he's played Neves at centre-back, who I thought actually did all right for that period of time that it was there. But he didn't opt to bring anyone off the bench. So it seems now like Bruno Lage has left himself in a situation where they're really light at centre-back due to letting these others go in. And I think for me, and I seen it on Twitter actually, because I stuck it in my bookmarks for this, that apparently the people at Wolves are not very happy and the lack of goals is a major concern for them. Obviously, they brought in Costa, but will he be fit at any point? We don't know. But I think Bruno Lage could be tipped for one of the next managers sacked, mate. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the form back end of last season as well. I think before they beat Southampton, it was 13 games without a win. So that's pretty crazy. So what's it, one win in 15, roughly, something like that. Not really good enough. I mean, you look at the midfield: Neves, Moutinho, Nunes, and then you've got the likes of Pedro Neto, Guedes, and that lot. Aït-Nouri, I think, is a really good player as well. He didn't have a good game against City, but I think going forwards, he's a good player. And they've got a really good starting 11. Maybe not a lot of depth, but yeah, you've got to be asking questions of Bruno Lage, especially the lack of goals. There's no real excuse now. He has got his own players. He's made the decisions to get rid of Cody, get rid of all the players you kind of mentioned, and yeah, it's not really paid off. And realistically, I don't think they were a great team to watch. I really don't think they were great at all. I think Nuno got criticised for the team being too counter-attacking and that lot. Is there any real difference with Bruno Lage? I don't think there is. I think it's just pretty much the exact
they're in trouble, mate? As the season's going on, we all we're Fulham, Bournemouth, and Southampton. I think we'd all probably change that now. I still think Bournemouth will go. We'll touch on them in a second. But do you think Wolves could be in trouble?
No, I still think they'll be all right. I think they're a ruthless board at Wolves. I think if they feel they're going to be in trouble, they're not just going to stick with Lage for the sake of it. Yeah. You're looking at the likes of Ruben Neves and that lot. They're still playing well. I think the difference between them and the other teams is I think the individuals are still playing pretty well. The likes of Neves, I think Nunes has made a decent start. I think Neto's a class player. I think there's still something there with them. It's just they're being really restricted with the way Wolves play. And listen, before the game, I think defensively, they've still got one of the best defensive records in the league. They're going to keep clean sheets. They just need that little bit more adventure in the box. And that whether Costa's going to be the difference maker, I don't think he will be, personally. I don't think he's going to really add much to him. I don't think he's going to start that many games. But I still think Wolves will be okay. I think there's other teams with much bigger problems than Wolves. But there's no question about it. Bruno Lage, I don't know what the next game is, whatever it is, if they lose that next game, possibly that'll be 1 win in 15, 16 games. They might make the call then.
Bournemouth up next, apparently, according to Ethan.
If they mess that one up, then quite possible.
Big problems. Another team that I think are in trouble, Corey, is Nottingham Forest, and they capitulated again. Steve Cooper did his post-match and mentioned about maybe having a little bit too many players and having to gel them together, which we totally understand. But again, it's for me, he's got the players that he wanted and then the owner. And as we found out yesterday, the owner sacked Carlos Corberán from Olympiacos after just 7 weeks. So we know that they're a bit kamikaze. I'd stick as well. I'd say Cooper, if he don't turn it round quick, pal, I think he might get the sack. I genuinely think there's just too much upheaval. They'll sack Cooper. I'm getting Watford kind of vibes in terms of management churn over. I think it'll go tits up for Forest.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because, I said this before, and I know Cooper's in a bit of a sticky situation, but they're getting leads in games or having half decent performances for a certain period of time, and then all of a sudden it's falling away. So I don't know whether you can pin a lot of that on the fact that the squad isn't really cohesive. There's obviously talent, and I think that's where me looking out from the outside in's going, Forest could turn it around. And even the Forest as a club, if you sack Cooper and you bring in a Dyche, for example, then he could work with them players. I know it'd be a complete transformation in style, and again, I'd have to sit down and look at the type of personnel, but he's in a troublesome position. If you're losing to Fulham, having had a lead at home, that's really not what you need. And I think you're right. I think he's got 2-3 games where if they are all losses, then I can easily see the owner getting rid of him. But it's interesting with Corberán and sacking him as quickly as he has. And I know there's that does he bring him in? I know it sounds a bit odd, but I don't know if there's a kind of situation where he feels that someone's free and that's what he does. But yeah,
did
right.
Marcelo go to Olympiacos as well?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, because I was thinking in January there'll be some mad switch over. I swear to God, man. They'll probably do like
it was inevitable, wasn't it, with the amount of players that they brought in. It is going to take time. I think, you know, I watched Nottingham Forest last year. I watched them in the FA Cup against Leicester. I thought they were absolutely superb, and it's just it's finding that consistency. If he can turn it around quick and get something, and even I'm talking just actually stopping the rut a little bit, then they'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely. Oscar, I've got a little question for you. Are you, mate, still not convinced by Fulham?
Yeah, to be fair, they look good, don't they? They do look good. I think
the transfer business has been
I was going to say exactly that, and I wasn't convinced by it. You know, Pereira, I think, has been really good. Paulinho, really good. I mean, the goal he scored was ridiculous, but yeah, I think obviously the only thing I say about Fulham is depth-wise, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of depth there, but they should be okay. I think, to be fair to them, a lot of character. I know Forest aren't in a great form, but winning a game like that away from home, I think they've been great at home all season so far, but to get that kind of win away from home as well, score 3 goals anywhere, again, looking good. Willian,
not be Mitrovic as well. That's a good thing, you know what I mean? Like,
not too reliant on him, and fair play to him. And maybe Marco Silva. Listen, coaches change all the time, but Marco Silva, I think I've alluded to it a few times. Yeah, he does tend to start well, but he does seem to have learned, in terms of lessons wise. You think when they go 1 down to Forest, they really start to panic, but the goals he scored. I mean, Harrison Reed's goal, lovely move there. And I mean, who would have thought Forest and Fulham, out of the 2 teams, when you compare the transfer business, that Fulham would be the team that's doing better, and even Bournemouth are doing better than Forest. It is mad. I don't think the odds you got on that.
Right? Do you remember with Scott Parker? Fulham did this when they bought loads of players, and it went tits for them. I know not on the scale of Forest, but
a similar situation. I think even before Parker, I think I was trying to remember his name, Jokanovic. When Jokanovic was there, they did a similar thing again when they were signing people like John Mikel Seri and that lot from like 40 million and that lot, and it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well. Will they go down? If they get it wrong, the appointment wise, I think they still need to give Steve Cooper a bit of time. To be honest, I think not being. I think
a normal person would. I just look at that ownership and think they ain't going to do that. I think they'll go.
Well, I think I do agree with you. I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago that they're not Steve. They feel like the last couple of signings haven't been Steve Cooper signings. Like, I don't think Steve Cooper's going after Serge Aurier or Michy Batshuayi. I don't feel that at all. And maybe that's a bit of a sign, possibly, as well, that the board is kind of looking at the bigger picture.
Do you know what, as well? Like, a lot of his lineups as well haven't included a lot of these signings. So it's like they're not winning, and he's bought these players and he's not playing them. The chairman will be like, "You're not playing these players," and he probably
he's chopping and changing a lot. As well. Exactly. Just as a side point, I mean, Lewis O'Brien, I think, started on the bench and that one. You're thinking, I actually think Lewis O'Brien's looked pretty good for him so far. I think he's adapted to the league really, really well, and not just because he scored, but I think. Even against the Tottenham game, I thought he did a decent job in midfield in that game, and I think there's a game before that as well. Weird, just weird that he's chopping and changing. Obviously, Bolly's gone in. They tried to change the back 3. That, as Corey said, it served him so well last season. That back 3: McKenna, Cook, Joe Worrell, and that lot. But now they seem to just be moving away from it, which is quite an odd. Like, all the worst things you can do in terms of getting promoted into the Premier League, they seem to be doing at the minute.
Yeah, it's going to go mad. Matt, obviously, Newcastle Bournemouth 1 apiece. Are we in danger of sort of overhyping Newcastle a little bit, because they have actually only had 1 win all season, but the general consensus seems to be that they're flying. They maybe could push for Europe, but they've only won 1 game all season and drew again against Bournemouth. So.
Yeah, I think I said it during the summer as well. I think Kendall was on for a show and we were kind of talking about it, and that people are kind of reacting to the money that Newcastle have more than the squad and more than the football, more than the manager, especially. Now, Eddie Howe's a great manager, but he's not going to be the man to push Newcastle towards Europe. And I think every Newcastle fan has accepted that they are in a bit of that transition period now where they know they're not going to be fighting relegation. They know they're beyond that, but they also know there's a lot of work to do, not just on the pitch, but in terms of actually restructuring this club into one that can, recruitment-wise, and once they get into European football, in terms of having the depth in that squad, to actually be where they want to be, and it's going to take a while. And it happened with Manchester City when they got the money. I think Newcastle have probably skipped a step in that they haven't been, like when City went out and made signings like Robinho, when they were just doing it because it looked good rather than actually looking at the logistics of it. Newcastle seem to have skipped that step and made some really good signings. Of course, Bruno has been incredible since he came in. Alexander Isak, despite the amount of money, it was such an incredible purchase. But I think even now, talking of Corberán being sacked by Olympiacos and whether Steve Cooper's job is at risk, and of course Scott Parker losing, everything in football now, it needs to happen now. There's no waiting around. There's not often that you get the time to do what you need to do. But Newcastle, they need to take the time to do it step by step, because the worst thing I think they can do is go out and spend 400 or 500 million on just the best players over the next couple of years and go then. So if I were a Newcastle fan, look, there will be that element of impatience where it's like, oh, we're the richest club in the world, why aren't we doing better? But you need to have that patience. You need to take the time and actually build to where you're going, instead of just trying to jump the queue. And I think it is going to happen, because they're showing they're doing it the right way. But not beating Bournemouth, I think for any team at the moment, despite how well Gary O'Neill hasn't set up, it is it's not a great result. But I've no concerns for Newcastle at all.
No. Is it wild of me to think when Tuchel got the sack, I thought maybe Newcastle might make a play? Just someone, they will move on from Eddie, and someone like Tuchel might not be available an awful lot. And I just think of someone like that and think, will that be that next step? I don't know. Eddie's doing a good job, but I agree with you, Matt. I don't know whether or not he'll take him that push. But Corey, Bournemouth, 5 points in 3 games. Can they stay up?
No, I don't think so. I think I feel bad for him. Honestly, I think Gary O'Neill's done a decent enough job when he's come in, obviously. But and a point away at Newcastle is still a good result. But I just feel that squad isn't strong enough in order to compete across the 38-game season and just get enough points to get them over the line. There's things to do with the club as well, in terms of the owner wanting to sell, and I don't know how that might influence it negatively or positively. Perhaps they'll have money in January to spend, and we've spoke about Sean Dyche a number of times. But if you bring him in, then perhaps you give him a fighting chance. But it's just too difficult. I think the thing we've seen this league this season is the quality's just gone up drastically. You can't really afford to have off games. You need to be competing in every single game that you're in, which is something that West Ham are struggling to do at the minute. So I don't know how Bournemouth are going to cope. And I just feel like they're still fodder to go down, unfortunately.
They were, and that moves us on nicely when you mentioned Sean Dyche, because I was convinced Sean Dyche was going to sit and wait for that Everton job, because I was convinced that Lampard was going to get sacked. But I'm sort of slowly, as mad as this sounds, coming round to the idea that Lampard might actually be all right. Like, I think he's looked at the personnel that he's got, and he's changed tact. Do you know what I mean? He's making them hard to beat. Neil Maupay gets a goal. They beat West Ham, first win of the season. They beat West Ham. Talk to us about that, Corey, first. How are you feeling, mate? How are you feeling? Are you worried? Like, what's your hope now and aspiration? I know we're only still early in the season.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams that have started well, and I think about them European spots, and I'm top 4, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs. Underneath that, you've got Man United, Chelsea for me. And then are you going to have enough to, sort of challenge them European spots just the way you've started?
No, if we keep playing the way that we're playing, we won't be close to it. And look, I hold a lot of patience and hope, to be honest. The signings that we've made are still very good signings, and I still think that it's well within our hands. And of course, there are some signings that it will take time for them to bed in and for this team to click, and that's definitely a part of it. The other part of it is that there are some players that Moyes possibly puts a little bit too much trust in. And listen, I think Vladimir Soufal, when he first came in, was brilliant. I think he was probably one of the best right backs outside the top right backs in the league. Souček as well, we know for his goals, but in possession, and they let us down, and they really, really do. And it kind of this West Ham team, and I can't excuse intensity and performance levels, but when you talk about basic individual areas, consistently in possession and even out of possession, those two in particular really hurt us. And I knew Everton were going to set up for a counter-attacking style, and our midfield just didn't have control. And when you've only got Declan Rice really trying to support himself and keep the balance in there, it just isn't enough. And I touched on it on my video. West Ham really, despite all the tactical flaws, and you could argue perhaps Paqueta not being in the game and struggling with the pace of the league a little bit, we really only upped the intensity when they scored the goal. And even then, you're asking yourself even bigger questions. Everton can afford to sit slightly deeper. I thought Everton defended really well, to be honest. I think Cody and Tarkowski did really well at points against Mikel Antonio. But we left it too late. And some of the changes that we brought on in Benrahma and Cornet, they should really be starting for West Ham.
Yeah.
You know,
why is Cornet not starting? Because every time West Ham are playing, right, bro, I look on Twitter and Cornet is trending, and all the West Ham fans are like, "Why is he not playing?" You know what I
mean? But this is the call, isn't it, for David Moyes? Really, over the international break when he comes back against Wolves, there are players in there. Look, I love Jared Bowen. He was sensational last season, and I genuinely think he'll be back at some point. But in the interim, let's try and up the performances in this squad on that right hand side. You see, Everton's Neil Maupay scores a brilliant goal. I'm not denying it. I've seen so many goals this season come down exactly the same side. Bowen, Soufal, Souček. You've got to rotate them. You bring on Downs, you put Kehrer maybe at right back, or you get Ben Johnson back. You bring Cornet on at right midfield. You change it. You protect yourself a little bit. So even when West Ham aren't in full flux and full flight, and I'm hopefully we'll get there, at least you give yourself a chance and you go away from these basic errors, because I'm sick and tired. Like, I'm genuinely getting to the point with it now where I'm like, you're not turning up long enough.
Just 3 goals scored all season as well, mate.
You can't pass the ball. Like it sounds awful, but you know, you have to pass the ball for longer than 3 passes. You know, you're talking about being a possession-based team. There is no point if you're misplacing it. And Souček's a massive part of that, just in front of the defence. If you can't, that's why Flynn Downs, even though he's a championship player and he's come from Swansea, I know what he can do. He will keep holding the ball long enough for West Ham to create. And it's just, I don't know, it is frustrating. It is frustrating. But I think a lot of it is on the actual intensity of the performances and the energy. And I think that comes from, and last season I've been spoiled for 2 seasons, because what I've watched is the team perform for 90 minutes and tactically I can deal with that. But now I'm looking at players thinking, you aren't playing at that speed that you need to. You're not taking on your man. You're not playing the right passes. It's basics. So until West Ham get back to that, then we can talk about maybe tactically, all right, we get done in a game or someone does something on us. But at the minute, it's awful. I was despondent after that. And I hate Frank Lampard, everyone knows. But to be honest, he played it as he should have done. And I look at their midfield of just a Gay, a Nana, possibly a player that we should have gone and got really alongside Declan, and even a Iwobi, and they controlled it ahead of us. And you've got to give them plaudits for that. They deserve the win.
Lampard's making Iwobi look good, man. That's magician kind of vibes.
Iwobi in the 8, yeah. It's different, isn't it? It's a different ballgame. But that's the thing about Lampard, and maybe I don't want to pin it too much on Frank, possibly his coaching staff, because I know he surrounds himself with people that really do know the game, but he seems to have understood the limitations of his squad, and perhaps it's taken him to, it's not like Derby County where he's gone in there, I'll sign all these Chelsea youngsters, I'll go to Chelsea and I'll literally have a plethora of talent anyway. He's actually got to work with what he's got. So I have to give him, reluctantly, a little bit of credit for doing that. Everton are still a poor team, but listen, he's got players in there, Tarkowski, Cody, in terms of not just quality, but actual experience, that you feel that if they are in and around that relegation zone, they can pull away. But no complaints from me, mate. They deserve to beat us, so it's just on us.
Yeah, great acquisitions, them two, I think, at centre-back for a team that are down there for sure.
He recruits well. Lampard, I'll give him that. I mean, even at Chelsea, you know, when he brought in Thiago Silva on a free, little deals like that he got over the line, and Ben Chilwell, big deals like that. I think he does recruit well. I'll give him that. I don't think he's tactically is that good, to be honest. I'll still be honest. I don't think he's tactically is that good, but the midfield he's built, you know, Gay and Arna, I thought, done really underrated goals for Everton and that lot. But yeah, I still think tactically, I wouldn't say he's good, Joe. I wouldn't say he's good. I think that's a little bit.
No, I'm just impressed that he has.
He's surrounded himself a little bit. Look at the start 11 they had yesterday compared to like last season. I think that's the reason for the improvement for me. He's recruited really well. I'll give him that, no doubt about it. But tactically, I'm not sure yet. I think even if you look at ourselves, we weren't great in that game. We could have easily won that game. You know, Pickford makes so many unbelievable saves in that game. I mean, it's been quite a recurring theme. So I'm not convinced yet on Everton, but they won't go down because of the recruitment.
But we're running out of teams, though. This is what I mean. I thought we'd be sound this season, right? And I still think we do. But then when we're talking here and I'm like, what about this team? What about Wolves? What about Saints? What about this? And I think, well, I don't have a clue. We're running out of teams. That's what I mean. The quality's gone up. Fulham, look really good. I think they'll be all right. I do think Forest, but listen, change the manager, good players there. Someone could get it right. I genuinely, the only one I will hang my hat on now is Bournemouth. The rest, I don't have a Scooby-Doo about, because I look at Everton and I think at home, they'll be all right. Wolves, too quality of players to go down for me personally. Like you say, sack a manager, someone else comes in. I then look at us and I start to go, oh shit, actually, we might not be all right, as confident as I was, because you lose a few and you're down there. I think maybe Southampton, they went through a period where they looked good and then they were rubbish the other night. So you just never know with them. But yeah, there's no one now for me. You know, I know you say Everton are going to be all right, but who then does that leave you? Like Villa won 1, and we won't talk about that game because it was shocking, but Villa won 1-0. But if they're going to be down there, Southampton, like who? Let's just finish up on that. Like who now do you say is getting relegated? Oscar,
I still say Southampton. I still say Southampton, Bournemouth at my initial 3. I just think Southampton, if Che Adams isn't on it, who's scoring for Southampton? That's the only question. I think the recruitment in general's been good, but they've dropped the ball, I think, in the striker department, Southampton. But yeah, I still think Hasenhüttl, there's still some question marks there. They go on a bad run, he's going to be under mad pressure. And the fact they were so poor against Villa were well off it. I still think Southampton, Bournemouth. And Forest, I'm coming around to that way of thinking, you know. I'm really coming around to that way of thinking. I've never felt we were safe kind of thing. I've never felt it was going to be comfortable. I think we're always going to have moments in the season where you may be doubting things a little bit, but I still think in terms of what we've got, Sinisterra, Aronson, you know, the additions we've made, Adams, Rocker, and the way we played in general so far this season, minus even the Brentford game, we played pretty well in spells. We sort the back line out. I still think we'll be okay. I still think we'll be okay, but I don't think it'll be comfortable. You know, I think the league is high quality. I think even Bournemouth, they'll finish bottom, I think, but they won't be like relegation fodder kind of thing in terms of getting battered week in, week out. I think they will still pick up about 30 points or so. And if you compare that to like last season.
I'll tell you what'll happen, right? They'll give Gary O'Neill the job and then they'll get battered. And that'll be it.
You manage your bounce tax and all that lot. But just to answer Lox's question, yes. Yeah, I do. I think you got James Maddison, Barnes, Vardy, you know, names like that, Tillerman. You get
exactly. You get a new manager, changes, done it.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. Go on, Corey. Who's going down for you?
So in a minute, I think it's Bournemouth, Southampton, and as it stands, Forest. But I still think to get a new manager, they should be okay. And on the Leicester point, I agree. I think Leicester are too good. and to be honest, I didn't think they played that badly anyway against. I know they conceded 6, but like I say, if they get a new goalkeeper in, then maybe they can. If they give it to 3-2, they give themselves a chance. So
just get Alex Smithies in. I
can't remember since West Ham brought Roberto, a worst keeper in the Premier League. I cannot remember for positioning, for distribution, for mistakes. And indeed, him and Ndidi are going to have a fight on the pitch soon because I don't think they can quite work together. Like it's getting a bit tasty. They got to get rid of him, man.
Yeah, definitely. Matt, what about you?
I said it from day one: Bournemouth and Forest. Forest signed some really good players, and as I just learned 20 minutes ago, apparently they signed Batshuayi. I didn't even know that.
No, they tried to sign him. They couldn't get it over the line, but it's the fact they tried to do it. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's why I didn't know that then. When you sign 18 players, it's going to take a long time for that to gel in. And look, there's going to be some of those players. Didn't they sign Lewis O'Brien? He's obviously gone in and he's done quite well. Dean Henderson in a few games has been crucial for them. You know, some of the players are going to fit in well, but when you have to sign that many players and quite a few of them have to go into the first team, it's going to take a long time for them to adapt. And in the Premier League, especially as you were saying a second ago, with the teams that we expected to be down there, maybe a little bit better than we thought they would be. By the time those players gel, you could be 5, 10, 15 points from safety. And depending on how your fixtures are falling, you could be done before things actually really start going for you. I think the worst thing they can do is sack Steve Cooper, because they've spent 2-3 months betting these players in. If they have to go back to square one yet again, I think that just takes away all hope from them. So For that reason, I think Forest are gone. For Bournemouth, if I have to give a reason, it's because Kiefer Moore is their striker, and that's would never work in the Premier League ever. And the other spot probably is up for grabs. Probably isn't the term, but I think if Southampton cut ties with Hasenhüttl and they get a decent manager, and I think there is the bones of a good squad there that could keep them up. I don't think Everton will be down there. I don't think Villa will be down there. I don't think Leicester will be down there once they get a new manager as well.
So who is going to be down there? Say it. Say my club's name.
No, I don't think Leeds are going to be down there either, though. That's the thing. Leeds. I'm joking. Leeds obviously made some really good signings as well, and some of those players have fit in really well. I'm a massive fan of Aronson. Sinister is doing quite well. Rocca is really a good prospect as well. But if I had to pick a team based on what is happening now, I think for the first time ever, I'm going to agree with Locks and say that Leicester could be in a bit of trouble. But again, once they sack Rodgers, if they get a decent manager, that squad is good enough to turn things around. Maybe not with Danny Ward in goals, but
the mad thing is with Leicester, if they don't sack him and they give him them games, Forest, Bournemouth, Leeds, or whatever, and he don't get positive results because of the quality of the league, the gap could be too insurmountable in a way. Do you know what I mean? If you get off to a bad rut, you're off to a bad rut. To concede 22 goals, the most in the Premier League ever, trust me, that's not good, man. How is he still there? I'm not convinced. I think the likes of Tielemans, Maddison, really they want out. They want out. Schmeichel managed to get out and they've got a clowning goal. I just think it's the fact that they then went and got Smithies, and then I don't know much about this Wout Fess, but the fact that yourself a fan for 90 million, you're bringing him, and you're taking loans out on the training ground. Although Locke says, we did that, before and all that. There's issues there at that football club from top to bottom for me. And I think, as wild as it was for them winning the league, could be as wild that they go down. You know what I mean? It'd be mad. And it'd be a fire sale, wouldn't we? We'd all be after Leicester players if they went down, to be fair.
It depends on how bad it goes, though. I mean, Tielemans was available for 25 million over the summer and no one wanted to touch him. I think that says a lot about what's going on there. Look, I mean,
it says a lot about Tielemans, though, Matt.
Yeah. No, it does. And I can understand a player of his quality if he feels he's been held hostage with that team or whatever. If he went there and he was promised the world, and then they battled Champions League 2 years in a row. Yes, he gets an FA Cup. He scored the winning goal. It would obviously be difficult when you've been promised so much from a project that looked so good when you went there, but also you can't just pack it in. You can't, that's how careers end. Look at James Maddison now. He's playing so well in that team. They're bottom of the table. They've 1 point after 7 games. Literally the worst defense at this stage of a Premier League season. And even now, Corey's saying, "Well, I pay 50 million for him." It's because he's still showing up. He's still playing and doing what he needs to do and what people know he can do. Tielemans isn't doing that, and he could cost himself a very successful career.
Yeah, true. Right, we will end it there because I've got 8% battery and I've moved and I'm not able to put it on charger up like that. So we will end it there anyway. But we've covered everything anyway. Listen, the links to all the lads' channels are in the description. Oscar at All Leeds TV, Matt at the Matt Ayres Tottenham blog, and Corey at Corey Talks Football. Corey, how many are we on now?
323. I don't want to press people after watching that post-match, to be honest. You don't have to watch it. Wait till we win a game again.
I want you all to go on over and check out Corey's channel. Check out these other boys as well, but Corey should have a lot more subscribers than he currently has. Listen, we won't be back now until probably October because there's no football. Obviously, the England games are on and that, but we're not going to preview any of that. So, listen, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Smash a like on your way out. Subscribe to these boys' channels, and we'll see you in a bit. Thank you all.